very okay. Welcome to the podcast with Michelle Courage, and this is the Raise Your Vibe with Michelle podcast. And I have a special guest today as part of my Galactic Conversation. I have Zoe Foster from the UK. I'm sitting here in sort of overcast Wellington morning, and Zoe has stayed up in the UK. What part of the UK are you?
I'm in Devon in the southwest.
Well, welcome.
Pitch dark.
Well, I suppose it's nighttime. I've got my first morning cup of coffee right here, and you are probably, winding.
I've got some chai tea going on.
Okay, cool. Oh, well, I'm so excited to speak to you because when I saw the kind of work that you do as an artist, I thought, oh my word, that would be so interesting to speak to somebody who does a similar kind of art to me in a sort of an abstract way, but it is so free flow and clearly connected into divine energies when you actually start painting. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll just get on to and see where our conversation goes.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on. This is just it's such a lovely kind of clash of serendipity and
absolutely
all the rest of it. I love
believe
it.
The universe does that just to either give me a little bit of a pickup. I know for me it's a confirmation that what I'm doing is 100%, and there are other people out there that are doing this and that are starting that, because it's often a lone cry voice in the wilderness with us artists who are starting to step into something completely different and follow.
Oh yeah.
So I think many artists have come before us in the genre that they paint, but I would like to think you and I are taking it just that step further. Anyway, let me not
well, honestly, that's a great lead in to kind of, I guess, my very informal intro, in that I would say that I'm an embodied expression artist and facilitator as well. I help other people, mainly women, not exclusively, but mostly women, really kind of step into their fully embodied energetic expansion. And by that I mean using their physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies, all of that together.
And it just sounds so delicious when you say that, because I'm going, oh my God, she says it so well. That's exactly what I do too. And it's so fabulous to meet somebody who can, who's saying and doing the same thing. So carry on.
Oh, amazing. And I kind of fell into it, really. It's been part of my healing journey. I've talk a lot about this, that I've had a lifetime of chronic illnesses, and a big part of this was healing my own spiritual body.
Yes.
Because I grew up in an atheistic household, and although I didn't, I knew even from an early age that there was something bigger.
Yes.
But I didn't know how to label it. And I
didn't want to label it.
Didn't want to label it. And I felt very judgmental about a lot of, I grew up in a very kind of Christian area, and none of it kind of sat with me, but I knew there was something. And obviously, the kind of influence of my parents, who were very atheistic, that didn't sit right either with me. So for a long time I just suppressed all of that side of myself, and it really was only when I started to open up through physical circumstances really just making it impossible to,
because you just get to rock bottom, and however your pathway is, it that I think us older souls need this real harsh sort of realization that there's more, because we've done this before. I really feel like, mine was harsh as well. This truly realization that you need something more. You
You're
can't
not
do
just
this alone.
you're not just a body, and you're not
Exactly.
just, you know, the chatter that goes on in your brain either. So I, you know, basically I was at the kind of the culmination of all of my physical conditions really compounding and making my life hell. And I'd started the healing journey, but as you probably know, when you start any physical healing journey,
Oh
it
God,
all
it's so
it all
unpleasant.
implodes.
So unpleasant. You know, I always see that meme or whatever they have on like Instagram or whatever, and you've got this picture of this serene goddess sitting in her cross-legged position going, this is what we think, you know, ascension is. And then underneath this woman in this absolute awful angst, this is what it really is.
Yes. Yeah. And it really was. In my 20s, I went through, you know, really terrible manic depression.
Yeah.
And I would say that, you know, I hit rock bottom a lot of times during that phase. And yet the rock bottom that I hit, going through this beginning of my healing journey, was just, you know, there was nothing left. There really was nowhere
well, you
left to go.
liken it to being brought down to your knees to realize that there's a higher power. You have to call on something because you're not dead. Okay, so you know, and you're still living, and you probably have this age-old thing in the back of your mind going, I can't end this actually, because this is not the way for me forward. And you have to take strength from something somewhere to take those steps forward. And you've got to hit that absolute platform of burning platform, put it that way.
Yeah. So what, you know, I was in the bath one night, and, you know, because of the stuff that I was going through, I spent a lot of my time in the bath trying to soothe myself out of the pain and discomfort. And I was in the bath one night just really feeling like, you know, this is it, basically. And just it wasn't like a flash of light or anything kind of totally out of the blue. It was a gradual kind of allowance of some words coming through.
Like
and
a
those words were actually really difficult for me to even allow in my mind, because of how spiritual they were. And they were, I am a golden being of infinite light.
Oh, divine.
Which is something that even now, and, you know, fully owning my journey, I can still feel a little bit like, oh, that feels quite trite. It feels a bit kind
we're
of
taught, you know, we are taught to come in, and I think we pull from many lifetimes of the down, sort of hiding our light. So to fully step up into that light, and to, I mean, you know, one of my passages from my new book, which are the messages that I got, is do not dim your light. Because we've had lifetimes of holding it down, of shoving it under, to either take care of other people or allow other people to rise, or behind people, whatever. And, you know, claiming that sovereign being is so difficult for us. But yet when we do, oh my word, it just, and it's a gradual process anyway, because I mean, I'm still learning to step up into I mean, I'm on camera and I'm doing this, you know. I mean, for goodness sake, I would be much happier, you know, just staying in my little place and not doing it. I have a compulsion to talk about it. Hence, I wanted to talk to you.
Same. I absolutely feel that way as well. And it has been a gradual unlayering, definitely, of, you know, what I allow myself to do next, and what I allow myself to speak about next, and how often I allow myself to show up and get on camera.
It took me a long time to start actually speaking the real stuff that I felt when I painted, because I would just sort of blend it into, oh, well, you know, it's just energy. And people would go, oh, I see music on my painting. And I'd go, yeah, music, you know, because I knew music was light and it was acceptable, and people, and, you know, getting more deeper into the spiritual thing, and then realizing, oh, I actually have to stand up now. And I mean, I get the messages loud and clear. That they basically said to me, it's time to stand in front of your paintings now, and actually speak now, instead of just staying behind the painting. Because I would just allow my work to speak for itself and kind of not really tell people what I was doing. So the further down the spiritual sort of track I went, the less people understood what I was doing with my work, and I got less and less interest. And then I realized I needed to speak about it. I don't know what your pathway was, how your progression was.
Yeah, so it's been so interesting, because right at the beginning, and I came back to painting basically a year ago. And, I was speaking to somebody about this the other day, that whenever I allowed myself to paint previously, in my previous lifetimes, it was always quite realistic. So I would pay attention to all the details, and I would literally spend hours kind of analyzing, what was in front of me and what I wanted to put down and how I wanted to do it. And it was very much like head based.
Yes.
And when I came back to painting during lockdown, it was an urge. So it was literally a bodily urge that I needed to move my whole body with paint.
And that's the thing, your soul was so craving to roll in those colors, because I don't think anybody who's listening quite understands. Once you go and have a look at Zoe's work, you'll understand. But Zoe actually rolls on your canvas. I mean, you actually meld with the canvas and the color and everything. And that, to me, is fascinating. Can you talk to me a little bit about your process?
So when I first started, out of kind of necessary constraints, and also, the mental constraints as well, of thinking, well, I'll just start with buying some small canvases. And when I say small, I mean like, kind of A2. Does that
Yeah.
Sort of A2 size.
Double.
Yeah. And what I did was, because I wanted to paint bigger, I would use more multiples. So I'd paint across.
Okay, yes. So you'd add it all in like
3 at a time or something.
Yeah.
And that was kind of me beginning to allow myself to be bigger, to expand, and allow my expression to be bigger than, the detail, but also me. And as I kind of progressed, I had to, like, literally couldn't stop myself, had to buy the big canvas,
Absolutely, because you feel so restricted painting. You feel like you can't express everything that you're feeling, because ultimately we're pulling down this massive energy to constrict it on a tiny painting. I mean, you can't do it. It's impossible.
And so I bought, the big rolls of unstretched canvas. And I just started to get on them. Literally put it on the floor and get on it. And that way I can use my whole body. I can get into all the gestures that I want to. I can, it flows from all of the energy centers in that way.
This is the thing, because I've watched a few videos of yours, and you've done like a few time lapses, and I've watched you kneeling on the painting and then moving your arm through it and moving your leg around. It's just amazing watching those. And it's so fascinating for me how you immerse yourself. And I mean, you and I both know that color heals. So whatever colors you're drawn to, those colors are balancing something in your system.
So another aspect of it, as I you know, at first, my first series was basically, no, my second series was basically it was called Uncensored Expression. So it really was me just going, right, what needs to come out today, having absolutely no planning or thought process, and just getting and choosing the colors intuitively, and just using tools, whatever, my hands, etc., just being completely intuitive, and then seeing what came out of it. But now I'm beginning to move into a much more intentional way of doing it, so that it is about it is about channeling. And I realized that that's what I was doing essentially, because what came out was something very energetic, so infused with energy. And I realized I wanted to make that more intentional.
Yes, because the more intention we pull in and sit in that energy, the more the painting will absorb that energy and become a portal for others to look at and attach into, and carry the vibration that painting emits, will pull into their aura and actually explode. And I love it when I see you smiling, because you're speaking to another person. It's like I said, two like in the like, it's so cool when I speak to another artist who's actually doing that, and actually found that secret. Isn't it amazing? Amazing. And it's taken me so long. I don't know how long it's taken you to sort of talk about that in an open manner. I'm still not really talking about it completely open. I'm talking about it in my circles where people understand me. But stepping out of that, I haven't had the guts yet, really. and I think there's a lot of people out there that just look at you and go, oh God, it's just another artist, But man, if they only knew how incredible it is.
Some people get it and some people don't, and I often feel that sometimes I feel like I'm still kind of just playing at it and just making these kind of big colorful blobs.
No, you're definitely not, because that's the thing, is you step into a different realm when you do this. You are bringing down this incredible energy. I mean, I have been doing now for the last, I would say probably about a year and a half, I've been intentionally channeling Pleiadian energy or Lemurian energy, Kuan Yin energy into the painting to express, and then I put them onto my scarves, because I feel like people can wear that energy. They can, the intention behind it is that they can use that beautiful energy to tap into a higher vibration. Without understanding it, they're actually, and I mean, obviously it's the ones that are listening to this podcast who will get it. I'm hoping that this podcast will reach other people who are suddenly going to go, well, that's a possibility. I also feel it. So
and for me it's really, I really embody that energy, as you've seen. I really kind of bring it in a completely physical, but also mentally, emotionally and spiritually into the painting. And somebody asked me recently if I would do prints, and this is a very personal choice for me, but for my part, I feel like it really is about what's there physically.
Yes, it's so much more powerful than the sort of print. And I agree with you. I've done some prints. I've really researched about the person who actually captured the prints, and I've sort of cleared his space. I've used the dragon energy to clear all the space underneath, where, because he works from home, So
I love that you have a personal connection. That's amazing.
That's to say, I've made it a personal mission to find the right person to capture this, because I really believe that is so important so that the vibration stays relatively intact. So my intention is that the whole process from start to finish is 100% intact. So when they absorb that artwork, the person who's bought it will feel that vibration. So yes, I've only done it with a certain few of my paintings, and I've put them onto scarves. This is like the Pleiadian one that I did with a Pleiadian sort of artwork, but it's about carrying that absolute vibrational intention. And when the artwork, when that prints come back, I sit with them and imbue that beautiful energy. Because I'm so obsessed with the fact that integrity, that authenticity. And I agree with you. You can't just send it down to your local shop and have it done.
Well, I in my other kind of work, which is falling by the way, so I have a website called Life Energy Alchemy, which is kind of where I was before this, but obviously it's very much linked. And on there I'd started to do kind of some t-shirts and that kind of thing, which are very cool, but actually I realized that that's not where I think I need to be very, very personally connected to what I'm sharing. So, and that's quite a recent realization. So having a shop where it's kind of print on demand, so it goes via a company, and then they send it out, and I was just like, I'm really not enjoying this.
I feel like we are trying to fit into the 3D world by doing that type of thing, and clearly we still have to fit in and eat and live, and so it is a balance between the groundingness of being here and then embodying this beautiful energy coming in, and it's that, and trusting the universe that you will be able to, if you fully trust, and I'm still working on this, to just do your paintings and know that will be sufficient, or understanding that the universe has sent you, or you've orchestrated it, that I'm very lucky. I've got a husband who is so he's my rock. He's my absolute grounded rock. So he has undertaken the mission to be my protector and my sort of platform. And and without him being that super, he's not sitting next to me, humming and awing. Not that I'm doing that. You know what I mean? He's definitely not doing that. But the thing is, I knew that I couldn't do this when I set up this lifetime. I knew that I couldn't do this without having that.
Similar, I've got a similar situation, and I feel so grateful that I have that support, because honestly, originally, if we think back to around this time last year, I was meant to be kind of doing physical workshops. I was a yoga teacher and embodied expression kind of, and I was starting to bring my sacred expression yoga, which is my signature offering, out into the world more. So I had been doing that for like 3 or 4 years actually, but beginning to actually get it out more.
To talk about,
and obviously I couldn't do any of that in real life, and we hadn't started kind of getting really comfortable with Zoom, and because it's such a kind of a live experience, I couldn't figure out at the time how, like I didn't even try and figure out honestly how I would bring it to Zoom.
Well, it's the same as
which I have
feel.
now.
Yeah, well, you see, that's the thing. Was I'm so excited. We're going to talk about that now, what you've actually now offering. But for me as well, I felt like I started bringing in these codes, these healing codes, and I felt I can only do this in person. And now I've realized I can actually do this online. You know, it's just moving with the times. So tell us more about what you're offering now, because it's so exciting.
Yeah, so the sacred expression yoga is basically where you get to experience what this kind of fully embodied craziness is like.
It's so cool.
And we do it with pastels, so that it's not quite as messy.
You can go and get in the shower and wash it off.
you do get nice and messy because we roll around in it and kind of really allow ourselves to get right down into that energy. But essentially it's about allowing that, again, that full energetic expansion. So many of us have body issues, both kind of physically and, kind of more internally, like, oh, I'm not allowed to take up space. That's a real big one. Or I'm not even allowed to stretch my arm out as far as it goes. We have this kind of feeling of
absolutely
that we've got to contain ourselves.
Yes, containment. And I mean, I chuckle because I came down into this earth being 6 foot, built like a brick shit house, and always bigger than everybody else, taking up so much room. And it's like, oh my goodness, I have to learn to make peace with this. How do you do that?
I love that. Yeah.
I think my soul has got such a sick sense of humor. It's like, okay, cool. This is how you're going to present yourself, and you're going to have to make peace with that and then learn to step out and be okay with the fact that when you walk into a room, you pretty much dominate the place. Because my energy comes in first as well, and I'm loud and open and laughing and giggling and carrying on, and like everybody's like, oh my God, and I trigger so many people. So that's the thing, is it's like you are giving people this way to actually expand their feeling of who they are.
Exactly. And then so part of the process is then we go through a kind of exploration of sacred geometry, and that allows them to connect deeply with themselves, to harmonize through all the energies, but also then connect to what's bigger than them as well. So that's a really important part of it, because when I first started, my very first kind of session with the public was just, let's get on this paper and have at it,
make a picture. Yes,
which was great, but it wasn't as grounding. And this is it allows us to really center ourselves and to really harmonize all of our energies, so that when we do come to the free flow expression part, which is allowing our soul just to really come up and out onto the paper, then it's not so raw. It's not, I said to somebody recently, it's not like you're just Jackson Pollocking.
Yes. Oh my goodness, he was my massive inspiration when I started. Painting early on.
Absolutely. But this is a safe space. You're creating, actually, in the beginning, through the sacred geometry, a safe energetic container for yourself.
Yes, it's like a little bubble that you're creating, a portal for you only to go through.
Yeah, exactly. And then whatever comes out is just, I kind of intone throughout that we're not making art, we're not making something beautiful. It doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be perfect in any way.
Absolutely.
What comes out is just, the beauty is in what you're allowing, and how much you can just surrender to it. And then to finish off, we allow ourselves just to literally bathe in the energy. So we lie down on our piece and we literally bathe in that energy that we've created in that safe space, coming back to our intention and just kind of beginning to integrate it all.
Sounds
and I do that.
Absolutely wonderful.
It really is. And it's so, what I love so much about it is that it's actually very deep work.
Yes, very.
In so many ways. And clearly there's shadow work there as well.
Absolutely, because you're clearing so many blockages within that space. Because the energy is coming through and filling your body. You're tapping into a higher energy that's coming through, flooding through your body, and all these blockages are sort of almost like popping because they're being expanded outwards, because this new energy is coming in and filling the vacuum, and they need to shift because they just can't be there. It's like negative energies, it just can't be in that vacuum anymore. It gets like water bubbles, it has to come to the surface and it pop out.
But what is so beautiful, I feel, about it is that it is, when we think of shadow work, we think of that as being, in so many kind of healing modalities, as being quite difficult and challenging.
Traumatic.
And yes, sometimes. And what is so beautiful about this way of doing it is that it's actually playful.
Yes, and soft.
We're tapping
and
into
releasing just softly.
We're tapping into that sacred play that we don't allow ourselves as adults. And that we're often kind of scared of, or we criticize as being indulgent or
childish, or which is exactly what we should be doing, is being childlike, because that childlike innocence and playfulness is the path. It is the path. We're meant to be happy and light and free, and looking at the world through childlike innocence, to actually embody that beautiful energy.
And we're allowing ourselves to integrate that with all of our our adult experiences, our everyday experiences, or all of the challenges that we have on a daily basis. And just doing that, like one session in itself, can be so incredibly healing. And yes, you will probably contract again afterwards, because that's what we do as humans.
Yes.
But through that ongoing integration process, you can keep coming back and kind of peeling away more layers. And
because you have a taste of that high vibration, and if you intend to, you can go and sit in that vibration again. So once you've actually felt that vibration, you can go back in your quiet time and go and hold that vibration again and expand it for longer periods of time.
And it's honestly, just for me, it's been ridiculously freeing, because like I just felt like, oh, I can't do this, I can't talk about that, I can't show up, I can't be who I really want to be, and all of these things felt so very real, so very real.
Yes, the judgment is real, the scaredness of stepping up. I feel that I've had lifetimes of being, I liken it to the lifetimes of tomato throwing. It's like I've had lifetimes, and the soul remembers that. They remember, my soul remembers that, and intrinsically goes, whoa, I don't really think that's a great idea. I know you don't remember what happened last time, but it didn't end well. So, and we have to realize we're pretty safe now. We're, yes, we'll get isolated, maybe possibly from a from our friends and family, but we will not, there's not a huge, for most of us, there's not a life-threatening, situation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And I feel so grateful that, our current world has just sped up so much in that respect. I think back to, honestly, even 5 years ago, and things were so very different.
Yeah,
about what you could and couldn't talk about, and moon cycles and things. Even it's it's kind of gone mainstream.
Well, that's the thing. I think the awakening is happening, and I think a lot of us sit here and go, oh, you know what, it's not actually. But now when I speak to people that I kind of go, in my judgment, going, well, they're not going to get it, they're actually open to listening.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can actually talk freely. And I mean, I do understand sometimes when I go that one step further, my guides are going, you're going there, aren't you? And I'm going, yeah, actually, because you know what, they need to hear it, and then they can kind of either step back or still step forward. And you can watch the reaction where the reaction before would be a slam shut door, whereas now it's like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch, but I'll kind of entertain you. I'll entertain you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's, and like you say, we have to talk more of it, because we need to give others the courage to step out, because I'm sure there's so many artists out there that are doing this but are not understanding. I mean, I look at art galleries and I'll see a painting around the world and I'll go, oh my word, look at the codes on that painting. I'm pretty sure a lot of the artists are not understanding that, because I was painting the codes before I even knew what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
So
same, yeah.
It's but I think it's taking that to that next level when you start painting the painting with the intention of bringing those codes in for the healing, for the specific healing. Now that's powerful.
Yeah, and I feel like some days I kind of like, why did you choose me to do this?
Well, that's the thing, is like, who the hell am I to do this? I mean, I'm busy writing this book of mine. It's almost finished. It's all the channeled messages combined with my artworks. These passages, and it's incredible. And I'm looking at it because my previous life was in advertising, and I'm working in a graphic design sort of point of view, and I'm actually doing the design of the book as well. And I'm going, like, wow, this is incredible. This is so incredible. Like, I can't believe that I did this, but I know it's not me. I'm just the messenger.
Yeah. And I think that as well. Yeah, I think that's what's helped me to really, I know it sounds backwards, but that's helped me to own it, because it's not kind of me going, oh, look, I made a pretty picture. Please,
absolutely.
Please, can I have some validation?
Exactly. It's like, I can't help but do this, and this is why, know, and if you get it, for me, that is just incredible. It's that little validation. But if you don't get it, I'm absolutely sure that your soul got it.
Yeah, and actually this came up for me recently, very, very recently, because I got into my head a little bit again about, so I just finished a painting and I was like, right, okay, and it's Easter holidays and stuff here, so I had a kind of a bit of a forced break, and so I got into my head a little bit about what I was going to do next. And when I rolled out my canvas the other day, and I had the intention of just starting the first layer, and I was like, okay, so what are the dimensions going to be, and where am I going to cut it? And if I cut it that way, then I've only got, I've got a narrow strip left over. And how I was going through all of this kind of mental computation, and I just suddenly thought, there was two things. First of all, I'm far too much in my head about this. This is not how I work. And second of all, I'm making myself think smaller. So I was looking to cut the canvas much smaller than my body, and body, I mean all of me, my being wanted. And so I just sat there, I literally just sat there for like an hour, just kind of
releasing.
letting it, just listening and just feeling into it, because I could not make myself go, right, I'm going to cut the canvas there and then I'm just going to start, I couldn't.
I hear you completely. I hear you completely. It's like surrender, total allowance, and then just allowing whatever, because I mean, your brain goes, oh, that's not like part of the color, like how can you put those two colors together like that? You've got to literally shove all that training out, and all the sort of, oh, what are they going to think? They're not going to know what it is. It's like they're not meant to know what it is. They're supposed to feel it.
Yeah. And the biggest voice for me was my soul, my being is wanting to go bigger. So I'm already creating big work, but I want to go bigger. And ironically, what it was trying to make me do, so I just cleared a bit of my studio to make it bigger, to create bigger work. And ironically, what my head was making me do was to go smaller, because it said to me, if you go smaller, you'll sell more.
Yes, you're safe. You'll fit in.
Whereas if you go bigger, who's going to buy it?
Yeah, who's got a space like that? And that's what I struggled with coming to New Zealand, because most of the houses here are much smaller than in South Africa. So I started trying to make these artworks of mine smaller. And I mean, I just got to the point I stopped painting. So I stopped painting for about 4 to 5 years. Because I wasn't interested. I just thought, I can't constrict myself like this.
Then
I went into the deep spiritual work, because the spiritual work then helped me understand why I had this compulsion never to just paint. I needed to paint for someone, because I was painting their soul codes on the painting, but I needed the space to be able to put this energy into this painting. I've never wanted to paint small. They've all been sort of 1 meter and bigger.
And I say that, right, I'm really kind of open about that it's immersive. It's meant to be immersive, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And if you've got this in your space, it's literally like radiating out. And that's what everybody who's bought from me has said. It's like, my whole space has changed because of having this painting.
Exactly, because I do the spiritual workshops. So at the moment I've been doing sort of like, I had a lady come through the other day who's an artist, and she created an Archangel Metatron painting so she could actually tap into that very powerful owning kind of energy. And she said she put it up into her house, and she says, oh my word, she says, this painting is just radiating out this massive powerful energy. And that just, I mean, isn't it amazing that we facilitated that
it is
incredible
absolutely
embodiment of this incredible energy that's available to us within a small little part. And my guides have always said, it doesn't matter how small you think your impact is, it's still an impact. When you drop a stone in, it still ripples out. And how many people are going to see that painting and still feel it?
I love that.
So okay, so how can people get hold of you? What is your Insta sort of thing, and all that kind of stuff? So people listening, I will put all these links at the bottom of the YouTube channel, but obviously this is the podcast. This is also a podcast.
So you can excuse me. So you can find me at
I have a chuckle about the fact that suddenly your throat crows.
I know.
So much to do on my throat chakra, or energy point. I like to call it the energy point, because it's so, I mean, it's just hilarious.
Always,
you can only have a good chuckle.
You can find me at Zoe KM Foster. .com, and at Zoe KM Foster on Facebook and Instagram. And I do have Twitter, but I never use it. So yeah, mainly Instagram these days.
Okay,
Is
awesome.
the place to be.
Yeah, I'm sort of kind of slowed down on my Facebook. I'm kind of
yeah. It's a weird place right now.
It is. It's a little bit of a sort of a hole. So I kind of like try and stay away from there.
Same. I have I should say I have a YouTube channel as well. I don't have a really handy short link, but if you search for my name, that it should come up.
Oh, it's like your name and my name are quite sort of different, you know. So Zoe Foster and Michelle Courage. There's not too many of us around. So
yeah.
Oh, so thank you so much for being on this podcast with me, and I'm hoping that we can kind of keep in touch and just see how we go together, and maybe have you on in a few months' time again, just to hear how you're going and where your work is taking you further. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you so much yourself, Michelle. Honestly, it's lovely to meet you and to hear all about your work as well.
Yeah,
and to connect on this level. It's amazing.
And being so far apart, knowing that this is working, and you know, there's more of us around. So thank you so much. And I'm going to sign off now, and we will chat again soon from the Raise Your Vibe with Michelle. And I'll post all the links again later. So underneath in the wording in the YouTube.